You've definitely noticed this, right? The price for something you want to buy just isn't fixed. One minute it's one price, and the next it's something totally different. Well, that's not random. It's actually a pretty powerful strategy, and it's changing how we all shop, travel, and even live. So let's dive right in and unpack this. Okay, so picture this. You've been there, I've been there, we've all been there. You pull out your phone, open your favorite ride-sharing app, and boom! The price is double what you expected. Maybe it just started pouring rain, or it's the middle of rush hour, or a huge concert just let out. That crazy price jump? That's probably the most common, in-your-face example of this powerful economic engine working in real time.
So what is actually happening behind the scenes? Well, it's got a name: dynamic pricing. And really, it's a simple idea at its core. It's a system where prices are never set in stone. Instead, they're constantly shifting, sometimes minute by minute, all based on what's happening in the market right now. The whole goal is to find that perfect price for that perfect moment to match the current demand.
All right, to really wrap our heads around how this works, let's go back to that Uber ride. It is the absolute classic case study, and it just perfectly shows the logic behind this whole idea.
You know, it really just boils down to the most basic rule of economics: supply and demand. Think about it. You've got a ton of people in one spot all wanting a ride at the exact same time. That's your high demand. But there are only a handful of drivers around. That's your low supply. So the system has this problem it needs to solve, right? How do you balance things out? Simple. You change the price.
But what's really cool is how the drivers see this play out. On their end, on their app, the map of the city starts to blush. Areas with super high demand light up, shifting from orange all the way to a deep, dark red. That red zone is basically a giant signal, a digital beacon that's yelling, "Hey, get over here, you're needed and you're going to make more money if you do."
And this whole thing creates this really clever self-correcting loop. So, step 1, demand shoots through the roof. Step 2, the algorithm kicks in and prices surge. Now, step 3 is the magic part. That higher fare is an incentive, right? It pulls more drivers into that red zone. And finally, step 4, as more cars show up, the supply of drivers start to meet the demand and the prices go back down to normal. It's basically a temporary fix for a very temporary problem.
Okay, so a big question is, how does a company know exactly when to raise the price? And by how much? I mean, this isn't some person in a back room flipping a switch. Nope, this is all run by some seriously sophisticated technology. So let's take a peek inside the algorithm's brain.
It's basically a 4-step process, and it's running all the time. First, it's just sucking in a massive amount of data. Then, powerful machine learning models get trained on that data to figure out the tricky relationship between price and demand. Third, the system does its magic and optimizes, calculating what it thinks is the perfect price for that exact moment. And finally, that new price goes live on the app or the website. And this isn't happening once a day. We're talking hundreds, maybe even thousands of times a day.
So what kind of data are we talking about here? Pretty much everything you can imagine. It's way more than just supply and demand. The algorithm is looking at what competitors are charging, it's looking at your browsing behavior, the time of day, inventory levels, if there's a big game or concert nearby, and, get this, even the weather. All of these different signals get fed into the machine to help it make that split-second pricing decision. Okay, so while ride-sharing is the poster child for this technology is, well, it's everywhere. You have almost certainly run into it in a bunch of other places, probably without even realizing it.
I mean, think about airlines. They're the OGs of this stuff. They've been adjusting ticket prices for decades based on how many seats are left and how close you are to the departure date. Then you've got e-commerce giants, think Amazon, that change prices all day long to stay competitive or just to clear out old stock. And of course, hotels. Ever try to book a room for a holiday weekend? Yeah, those rates shoot up to match that demand. But no matter the industry, the goal is always the same. Sell the right thing to the right person at just the right time for the best possible price.
So, all of this sounds super efficient for businesses, right? But it definitely raises some pretty big questions for us, the consumers. Like, is this fair? And where exactly do we draw the line? This is where we get into the really complex, kind of murky ethics of it all.
Okay, this is a really important distinction to make. What we've been talking about, dynamic pricing, that's based on market factors like supply and demand, so everyone sees the same high price when it's raining. But then there's something else called personalized pricing, and that's different. That's when a company sets a price just for you based on your data. So for example, an airline might see you've searched for the same flight 5 times this week, figure you're desperate to buy, and show you a higher price than it shows me.
And that's where things start to get really controversial.
Economists actually have a way of breaking this down into 3 degrees. So first-degree pricing is kind of the holy grail for a company, charging every single customer the absolute maximum they'd be willing to pay. Second degree is when the price changes based on how much you buy, like bulk discounts. And then there's third degree, which is the one we see all the time, charging different prices to different groups, like giving a student or a senior discount. What's happening now is that dynamic and personalized pricing are just taking these old ideas and putting them on steroids with massive automated systems.
Now, as you can probably guess, because this tech is so powerful and can feel pretty invasive, regulators are starting to pay very close attention. It seems like the Wild West days of just letting algorithms set whatever prices they want might be coming to an end.
And we are absolutely seeing the beginning of a regulatory crackdown. In New York, for instance, companies now have to tell you if they're using your personal data to set your price. California's Attorney General is digging into the whole practice. Tennessee went even further and just straight up made personalized algorithmic pricing an unfair or deceptive act. And it's not just the states. The Department of Justice is looking into whether companies are using the same software to basically fix prices. The message from regulators is getting pretty loud and clear. Transparency and fairness aren't optional anymore.
So the next time you see a price online that seems a little too good to be true, or maybe a little too high, just remember what's going on behind the curtain. There's an algorithm constantly watching the market, and yeah, in some cases, it might be watching you. So the real question is, as this technology gets deeper and deeper into our economy, how closely are we going to be watching it?